Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. Let's get in some front page news. Good morning, Morgan.
Hey, good morning, DJ NV, Charlamagne the God, and Jess Hilarious. Y'all all right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, let's get into it. Okay, so listen, President Trump, he's joining House Republicans in Miami this week for the GOP January retreat. The event started yesterday afternoon at the Trump National Doral Golf Club and runs through tomorrow, Wednesday. President Trump joined House Speaker Mike Johnson for a dinner and reception on Monday evening around 7 p.m., where the president addressed the House Republicans' annual policy retreat on various topics like his first week in office, recognizing only the male and female genders, his rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and the weaponization of government. Let's hear more from President Trump.
Past 7 days, my administration has been moving with urgency and historic speed to reverse every single disaster of the Biden administration. By the way, the guy was a disaster, okay? You know, we want to be nice. All of the lawless diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense policies across the government and all across the private sector and the military. I also signed an order to end the weaponization of our government against the American people and investigate all abuses of power.
Yeah, so he also spoke about the Paris Accord and, you know, retreating from that. He touted his team's work, saying since taking office, including he has raised a lot of money for the next election that he assumes he can't use for himself. He credited his success during the 2024 election to TikTok, saying he became a little more jaded towards the app, but we'll now see what happens. He also mocked the idea of course, of multiple genders, as you heard in the audio. Earlier in the audio, he will say something like people like having 7 genders, and he made sure that there were only 2 genders to recognize, male and female, and you know, jokingly saying, oh wow, that was a tough one, and saying you know, of course they've got some weird stuff going on, so Trump is just not in favor of any of that. And he also turned his attention to immigration, where he said the country is moving forward very fast in regards to what's happening with immigration reform, and I'm sure you guys have talked about it. We've talked about it all week with those ICE roundups.
Just
Any thoughts?
quick question, just to be clear. So I know 6 months ago, if you didn't use the proper terms to identify a gender, you could be called to human resources and you could be fired, right?
Yeah.
So now those terms are out the window.
Well, we still think that you identify as a woman, so it's okay.
I'm not talking
I'm
about
gonna call you a bitch. It's okay.
Because he issued an executive order, what happens is...
He's an ass, right? I just asked a real question. He goes,
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead, Morgan. I'm listening to you.
Jesus.
Because he issued an executive order, it does not make it absolute law, but it does changes things. It does change the scope of things. So if you are working in federal government, then that is true. I mean, you're probably going to have to heed to those rules sooner than someone who's in the private sector.
What does that mean? If a trans woman says something to me, I say, I got to respond, sir, or what? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, if you're in the private sector, you should probably still say ma'am. But if you're in the federal sector, then you know it's going to be probably case by case, and they will probably deal with that.
So you just misidentified me. You called me a woman and I'm a man. So you misidentified
No, I
me.
called you a bitch. It's different. It's a total difference.
Continue, Morgan.
All right, yes. So later today, House Speaker Mike Johnson and committee chairs will continue conducting breakout sessions as Republicans look to package the Trump administration's top priorities in one single bill that covers immigration, energy, and all the things. You know, Trump just wants one single bill. But yesterday, Speaker Johnson addressed House GOP members ahead of President Trump, saying he feels like the U.S. is entering a new era of government. He also expects the U.S. to handle deportation flight negotiations how they did over the weekend with Colombia. I'll get into that more, but let's hear from Speaker Johnson.
When the president says he wants to make the government more efficient and effective, and we say we want to limit the size and scope of government, it means that everything is on the table for reevaluation. President Trump will, you've seen, he will have a heavy hand, and we will support him on that regardless of who stands up against it.
So in case you missed it, Colombia is sending 2 government planes to pick up migrants who were set to take military flights originally. Now, there were some planes rejected in Colombia and Mexico with migrants on it. And Trump, he was reeling his heads. He was like, oh, nah. So basically, this comes after the Colombia government and President Trump have agreed to terms to after threatening tariffs. In a statement, the White House said that the country agreed to terms that include the unrestricted acceptance of all illegal aliens from Colombia returned from the United States. The statement also said that drafted actions on tariffs and sanctions would be held in reserve and not signed unless Colombia fails to honor this agreement. Now, Trump threatened retaliatory measures after Colombia at first denied entry to those pair of U.S. military deportation flights. So
Trump started a trade. He started a trade war on day 6.
He sure did.
And won, though.
He did win. They backed down.
He moving those migrants out and making sure that when they land, they can land. So that's a whole thing. So, but yeah.
You know the interesting thing about this, just remember everything Trump is doing, America gave him the power to do.
That's right.
He was voted in as president, and he has full control of government, all 3 branches of government. So everything he's doing, he pretty much has a constitutional right to do.
Yes. And if not, then, it's a matter of precedent and figuring it out through the courts and all of these things. And by the time you probably get to an answer, well, his presidency may be over. So, you know how the courts move.
I don't know. Yesterday at that House Republicans annual policy retreat, he was talking about a 3rd term.
Yeah, I heard him say something about that.
And that's something we was talking about in 2016. If he got back in 2020, he probably wouldn't leave.
He ain't trying to leave.
It seems like he's saying it jokingly, but
he didn't try to leave in 2020. It's not like he just walked out.
Nah, yeah, you're right.
He was there was a thing called an insurrection on January 6th.
That's
so
right.
I'm just saying that 4 years from now, don't just jump out the window and say he's going to just walk out.
No,
I don't know.
Right, we should take his jokes for real face value.
Yeah.
All right. So that's your front page news for 6 a.m. At 7 a.m. We'll continue to talk about the legislative session, immigration raids across the country, and more.
All right. And shout and salute to everybody out in L.A. We're still praying for you. I know you recently had the mudslides, but I heard this morning on the news that they're actually allowing people to go to their house today. Today is the first day that during the daylight hours, they can actually go to whatever is left of their house. So they can go and see if their house is still up, if they have anything, artifacts or anything like that. So
horrible.
Again, we're always praying for our family out on the West Coast, all right? Get it off your chest. 800-585-1051. If you need to vent, phone lines are wide open. Again, 800-585-1051. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are The Breakfast Club. Let's get in some front page news. Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning, NV, Charlamagne, and Jess. Good
Peace,
to see y'all.
Morgan.
Girl. Yeah. All right, so let's get into it. Immigration raids, as you guys have mentioned, we've all been talking about it. They are taking place all around the country. The Trump administration has launched a social media thread showcasing what it calls, quote, the worst criminals arrested by immigration and customs enforcement since the president's inauguration. The White House NX thread reads that President Trump's leadership ICE agents are working tirelessly to protect our communities. ICE reported more than 950 people were arrested nationwide just yesterday alone. The agency also said it has started what is called targeted operations in Chicago. So Chicago, look out. Florida lawmakers are still meeting in committees today after calling their own special session to deal with immigration policies aligned with President Trump. Senate President Ben Albritton says he doesn't support Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' proposal to create criminal penalties against law enforcement. Let's hear from Florida Senate President Al Britton.
President Trump clearly has a situation under control and is leading from the Oval Office. I want to be careful that we don't do anything to undermine President Trump's very good plan. I won't stand for that. I want criminal, illegal immigrants to be deported efficiently and effectively. And the best way to do that is to follow the leadership of President Trump.
So Florida House Speaker Daniel Perez entered the chat, and he called for the governor's proclamation too narrow, and saying many of his policies or proposals are bureaucratic. Now, he's calling on a second special session to deal with the proposed immigration policy. Let's hear from Florida House Speaker Daniel Perez.
We do not need to duplicate the functions of U.S. Immigration and Customs and create a mini-me version of ICE. We have chosen to designate the Commissioner of Agriculture to serve as the state's Chief Immigration Officer. We will create more badges, detain more bad guys, and provide more beds.
So as mentioned in that audio, both the House and Senate have agreed that the Agriculture Commissioner, who is Wilton Simpson in Florida, will be the state's chief immigration officer. I find that to be a little morbid, a little weird, but Agriculture Commissioner, Chief Immigration Officer. Yeah, so that's happening in Florida. Meanwhile, elsewhere in politics, President Trump signed 3 executive orders yesterday to aim to reshape the nation's military. That's according to multiple reports. One of those orders will reportedly include reinstating service members with back pay for those who were discharged for refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Another will ban transgender service members from serving in the U.S. Armed Forces, while third will ban any diversity-related programs in the military. No DEI in the military anymore. So Trump first banned transgender Americans from serving in armed forces back in 2017 during his first administration, and will undo former President Biden's repeal that was issued in 2021 to combat that 2017. Elsewhere, Senator Lindsey Graham, he's talking about the January 6ers and Trump's pardon of them. He says he doesn't approve of President Trump's decision to pardon those who participated in the January 6th riot. The South Carolina Republican told CNN State of the Union over the weekend he's a firm backer of the president, but he doesn't think it's acceptable to pardon criminals who assaulted police officers. Let's hear more from Lindsey Graham.
I don't like this. I don't like it on either side, and I think the public doesn't like it either. I've always said that I think when you pardon people who attack police officers, you're sending the wrong signal to the public at large. If this continues, if this is the norm, there may be an effort to rein in the pardon power of the president as an institution.
Well, okay, bringing things home to you guys in New York. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, he won't appear in federal court tomorrow. Adams is scheduled to have a federal court appearance, and it's been waived as the mayor reportedly undergoes several doctor's appointments. A spokesman for the mayor says Adams hasn't been feeling well in recent days and is undergoing numerous medical tests and doctor's appointments this week. He has canceled nearly all of his public appearances, including his weekly scheduled news conference with reporters. Now, that has public advocate Jumaine Williams concerned because under law, he'd take over for Adams if Adams could not perform his duties, but he hasn't heard anything from the mayor's staff. Let's hear quickly from public advocate Jumaine Williams.
I would say just in terms of providing confidence for New York City, that might be better to have that communication.
So he says, right now, I want to make sure we're portraying as much confidence as possible in city government. I would say if it was me, I think the communication would be a little better just to make sure we're pushing that confidence. But again, they can handle this, a supervisor to handle how best they can and make sure that they are portraying that we are all wishing for the mayor to be well as soon as possible. So this is interesting because this brings about the question of transparency in government. City Hall isn't explaining what's going on with Mayor Adams, other than the fact that he's just not feeling his best. Do you think that public officials, depending on what capacity they are in, do you think they should be transparent in terms of their health issues?
Yeah, especially if it prevents them from doing their job.
Yeah, I absolutely positively think so. Yeah, especially if they're missing events and missing appearances. Yeah, absolutely.
So the mayor's team is reassuring the public that Adams is in constant communication with his staff to ensure city business continues. But that also concerns me because the dude the backup has already come out to say, I ain't heard from him. So just to give you guys a heads up in New York, that's something that we will continue to watch. And of course, we're wishing Mayor Adams well wishes as well. We don't want to see him sick or, down and out. But that's your front page news. I'm Morgan Wood. Follow me on social at Morgan Media. And for more news coverage, follow at Black Information Network. Download the free iHeartRadio app and visit us at BINnews.com. Thank y'all.
Wake that ass up. Early in the morning. The Breakfast Club.